Welcome. Sorry for the delay, bit unfortunate. So on tonight's agenda, we'll call firstly for apologies. I have apologies from Murray and Joan. Are there any other apologies?
We haven't got Duncan, so I'm not sure if he can actually connect to us.
No, so I can't see anyone, Kay, so I'll be relying on you. So, all right, and we'll add Duncan to that list. So someone prepared to move? I'll move, we accept them. Is there a seconder there?
Happy to second, Jim. Kirsten.
Thank you, you've come up. Thanks, Kirsten. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. Now, we have two items not on the agenda. An understanding order 912, matters not on the agenda. After item 15, we'll briefly go into committee, and that's to receive the public excluded minutes that you have had circulated. We need to do, the reason it's not on the agenda was the matter was overlooked, and it needs to be dealt with now to protect the public excluded information. So that's one item that we'll deal with after item 15, and a wee bit later, just straight after item 9, and before members, and Kay, you don't know about this either, I'm sorry, before members' information, the issue of Flaxton Road came up tonight, and I had in a bit of an emergency meeting with Don Young. Paul was there as a roading portfolio and the mayor, and Don's going to brief us very, very briefly on that, and then it'll come back to the next board meeting, and we have to do that tonight as well. So I'll deal with that after item 9. So, right, moving on, just so you're aware. Look, please just call out if you want to ask me anything or a point, because I can see Kay all the time, so she can bring me up to date. Confirmation of minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Appear to be none. So is someone prepared to move the adoption of the minutes?
I'll move that, Jim.
Thanks, Paul. Seconded by
Morris.
Morris. Thanks, Morris. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Declare it carried. Are there any matters arising? There appear to be none. So we've got a deputation or a presentation now from Grant McLeod. This is just to bring the board a quick update on the Melton Reserve. You remember that was an issue that came up when we were talking about our budgets last meeting. So Grant, welcome, and over to you.
Cool, thanks, Jim. Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Grant McLeod. I'm the Green Space Manager here at Waimakariri District Council. Now, I'm just going to do some screen sharing, just because I have a presentation here. So hopefully that's coming up for everybody now.
Yep.
So look, just in line with that as well, I understand at the last meeting, and apologies that I couldn't be there, I was at the Pegasus residents meeting at the same time, that there was also some queries around some of the town entrances as well. And I thought I'd just briefly run through those, although I do have Flaxton on here, and given that Don's going to go into that in some detail later on, I might just kind of breeze through that one and get through to Melton as well. If there's any questions at all throughout the presentation, obviously just alert me, grab my attention. I've got the gallery view on so I can see most of you. Otherwise, yes, here we go. So look, this just wanted to go through the town entrances. One of the first things just to raise is obviously there has been a strategy that's been put together. Myself and Joanne have both been aware of that. It's been through the business centres team. They've also attributed some budget to that as well. So what we're looking for there is just some consistency around the levels of service that we're actually going to be putting into place with those town entrances. Now, the main ones that I think the board were interested to kind of hear about was obviously Kippenberg is one of the important ones that's had quite a lot of discussion in recent times. Myself, Dan, and Jim last year had some meetings with main power, Now they sort of came to a little bit of an end, and that's really because of the fact that we're now starting to see some discussion around whether or not the undergrounding, which was originally said no to, may now actually come into be. So one of the issues there for board members that aren't aware is that we have power lines directly above some trees that we've got there, and at the minute main power basically going through every 2 years to cut the trees back. That's obviously splaying them in a way that we're not overly enthralled with, because it has to happen because of the infrastructure that's there. But it is compromising the trees, and unfortunately topping them all the time like that is kind of creating a little bit of a stunted growth for them. So we were looking at a different kind of planting that we could do there, and main power were quite keen to put some money into that at the time. Since that moment though, there has been some discussion around whether or not the development that would happen right in behind it would actually come forward and be done a lot sooner. So that's kind of put that whole project into question now, because if we go through and do the development, that would in essence become an urban roading corridor, which would have a whole new entrance into quite a substantial subdivision. So it's sort of, we've got a design there, however it will end up being inappropriate if that does occur. So yes. Lineside Road, so just moving on to that, obviously we've got some works that are currently going on as well that PDU and the roading team are doing on behalf of the council. Part of that is putting in some new footpaths, and also working with the board around the tree planting that we might get to put in there as well. That work's currently underway, so you'll note that whenever you go down there or drive down there, actually there's quite a lot of work that's going on, and that project is kind of marching on really well. So I think that that's due for completion sometime soon, if I'm not incorrect, Joe or Don. Now the board has contributed quite a lot of money into that area for planting, and you'll recall last year that we had a bit of an issue with MPD and them removing some of the old oak trees that we had there. So we've managed to retain one. It's an interesting drum beat. The idea being that we'll go and we'll put some further trees down through that area as well to try and carry on that corridor. So there's still some further work to do there. There's also been a slight complication, and I'm meeting with a chap from Auckland tomorrow over the phone to talk about the fact that there's an LED billboard which is being consented on the Morrison's car site. So I need to talk to them, because obviously they've now got some concerns around where we would put the trees, but at the same time we want to create the avenue effect. So we have to come to a bit of a discussion there to see if there's a middle ground that we can find. Otherwise that may be one that I'm bringing back to the board to have a bit of a chat about at some stage. So that's just to give you a heads up there. And as I said, Flaxton Road as well, but I'll not dwell on this one too long, given that Don's going to be talking about this specifically later on. But obviously there was, sorry, Paul.
You go there, back to Lineside Road.
Oh yeah, sorry, Paul.
Lineside Road, was Nelson Petroleum going to pay for a couple of extra trees on that site?
So they planted 3 trees.
Yeah.
We tried to push with them that they might want to give a donation to the council in terms of the trees that were going to be removed, but they dug their heels in. Their basic feedback was that unless you remove that big oak tree, we're not willing to give you anything.
Oh yeah,
We're not willing to move that big oak tree, so we kind of came to a bit of an impasse.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's basically where that ended up.
Yep, thank you.
So Flaxton Road. So there's obviously an opportunity there that we might have a secondary option through Townsend Fields in terms of actually creating a bit of an avenue effect into the area via an entrance. There may also be some room potentially for landscaping, but the reality is it's going to be pretty limited. So we're working with Three Waters there, who are also working with the Keep Rangiora group that are looking at some planting around the swales, the stormwater areas that we've got down there. So that's an ongoing piece of work. So Melton Memorial Reserve Project. So currently we've got budget in the annual plan and also into the LTP for the finalisation of the concept plan, which was consulted on back in 2015, and a plan actually developed. Now, a major part of that was what you see now as the current dog park, plus also the croquet greens that have gone in there, and also setting out an area where the dock office is currently situated. That plan had been consulted on quite widely with the public. There was a few things that they said yes to and no to. Obviously there was a playground touted for the area, but given the dog park's location, that was decided to be an inappropriate mix of activities. As you can imagine, a whole bunch of kids running around a playground next to a dog park is probably going to hype them up. So not quite the right mix of activities there. One of the things that did come back through that was the fact that Melton really would be a good spot for I think the term that they used in the previous report was a memorable entrance to Rangiora. Now, with the Coldstream development with the stadium, this is obviously going to become a more significant entrance into the area with more people travelling through there. So that's some of the current thinking that we've got. We've got a current development plan that includes an extension to the dog park with the dog agility area. And it's also highlighting the fact that we'd be doing a native planting area as well. Now, you would have heard from Trevor Wright at the last board meeting who did a deputation. And one of his ideas is that he's quite keen for an arboretum or some kind of special tree planting for the area. They're just a couple of the things that we've kind of got going on here. There's also the potential for the Model Railway Club, who are currently situated on Blake Street, have highlighted the fact that they'd be quite keen on Melton Park as well. Now, so they're in the mix as well. So where we're kind of at is that we've got an existing concept plan, which allows for an extension to the dog park with the dog agility area. We've got quite an expectant group there with the Friends of Dog Park who, you know, they're well aware of that, and you know, they see the money in the budgets to assist with some work down there. They're also fundraising at this point in time as well for their own agility equipment, so that they'd actually be paying into that project with that one. Plus we've got some other groups that are coming in who have quite a high interest in this, and for the Keep Rangiora Beautiful, and also for some work that the board have done in previous years, we've had some tree planting down through there as well to help create that avenue effect. So you can see there that we've got quite a bit of planning to do this year. The reality is, if we stray away from the current development plan that we've got, we are going to have to go out and re-engage with it. Now that plan's at least 5 years old, so there is some sense in opening up that conversation. We know that we've got some very interested groups there, and we know that there's a lot of the public who may not recall the plan that was developed previously, and perhaps it doesn't quite go as far as they'd want it to. So really what I wanted to do was kind of bring the board up to speed with what was happening here. There was also an opportunity or a discussion around whether or not the board would want to put some of their landscaping fund into this project. There'd certainly be opportunity for that, given the level of area that we've got and the amount of planting that you could achieve within there. And if we were to look at not necessarily a garden, but some kind of arboretum or tree specimen planting area, then we would, it could definitely utilise further funds for that. So that's in a nutshell kind of where we're at with the project. If I have time, Jim, I'm very happy to take questions.
Just thanks very much for that, Grant. I think what the board probably would need is an update workshop with you, so that everyone's well aware of what the plans were 5 years ago. I can't totally recollect what the ideas were. I wasn't aware, for example, that you had a lot of money put aside until recently for future years. We'd need a workshop, I think, with you to get some idea of that without making any commitments, of course, to get an idea what your thoughts are there, what the board's thoughts are on the development on the dog park and those other issues, and what changes would be made or could be made if the board put some, not saying all of it, some or a bit of it or all of it, some money towards it. Would that help bring the planning forward or what? So I don't know what other board members think, but I think that we probably need a workshop, hopefully when we can get together, because it's pretty difficult on this form. So what's your thoughts there?
Just can I say that there is some urgency for the dog park, because the group was already currently in fundraising mode. They've got a a concept plan that they want to consult on. So they're a long way down the track compared to some of these other groups, and they've just been waiting to see if the council will provide the fencing. How soon can we get an answer back to them, because it's actually holding up their fundraising?
Well, that's interesting, Kirsten, because the board hasn't had any briefings or approach from the dog park people as to whether the board would support them to extent. We've spent over 100,000 on that dog park so far. I don't know what
I'm
the
sorry,
outcome
Jim,
is,
I was
but-
asking that of Grant. Sorry, how soon we could get a
Sorry.
briefing back.
Yeah, well, we can come to the next board meeting, or if there's some urgency around this, I could work with Kay for a specific date for a workshop on that. The thing with
what the board members think. Do you want a special workshop meeting, or would the September meeting be all right? Do you want to do it?
Well, I didn't know there was any urgency on it either. I'm quite happy for a briefing, but I wasn't aware of any urgency on it, Jim.
Yeah, same position as I've got, Robbie.
Sorry, the funding was promised to the dog park in 2019, so it's been delayed with COVID, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm going to just interrupt there a wee bit, because I thought the board had a say in that. Nothing has come to the board on that. The previous board supported the 100,000 was spent there, and they mostly thought that was sufficient. I have to say, for the dog park in the interim. So
yeah, I'm sorry, Jim. I could show you the correspondence from David Ayres. I'm aware that you haven't seen that.
I'm not talking about the council. I'm talking about the community board. Yeah.
I'm a councillor, and I actually haven't seen any correspondence and all that drama about the alterations or any plans as well. So I'd be quite keen for Grant to bring something to the community board and the council, so I at least know what's going on there
exactly,
as well.
because they're talking about matching council contribution with double what the money. So therefore, we need to consider all that when we look at it. Absolutely.
Are you talking about we being council or community board, Kirsten?
Both.
Yeah. Is the board happy to have a briefing at the next meeting, or do you want it sooner? Any ideas?
If there's no urgency, I think at the board meeting would be perfectly fine. If there isn't an urgency, I'm hearing from someone there could be, but if the majority thinks that there isn't, then maybe we should just wait till September.
The next board meeting would be fine. All I'm saying is please don't leave it another 6 months.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
No, we need to move it on. That's the intent of the briefing tonight. So if everyone's happy with that, are you happy with that, Grant, to come back to the next meeting?
I'm always happy to come
I'm
back,
sorry,
Jim.
Jim, but I thought tonight was going to be the night we saw the plan for the Melton Memorial Reserve. So I'm a bit surprised we've seen so little tonight.
I don't know where you got that idea from. That was never part of the workshop. It was on the
agenda.
On the agenda was the Melton Reserve update. It wasn't talking about the final plans or anything. It was to bring us up to date as a result of the last board meeting, where I think we were all surprised to learn that the council had been budgeting ahead on this and the board knew nothing. So that was the basis of Grant coming tonight. Right.
Yep. While Grant's there, I actually went for a walk around there the other day, right around the other side of Melton Reserve. I don't know if Grant's aware, there's a heck of a lot of rubbish and bottles and car tyres and a lot of stuff been lying there for a long period of time, right past Department of Conservation, right to the giveaway sign or stop sign, and then you cross the road onto the where all our park trees and what have you are, and you walk down that walkway there. Both sides of the walkway, there's quite a lot of rubbish lying around, so I don't know who's meant to clean that all up.
Yeah, that's a surprise, because that shouldn't be happening. So is that on all three boundaries there, Paul, or is it just one in particular?
All three boundaries actually.
All three.
And then when you cross the road against the fence on the dog park side, there's a whole lot of empty beer bottles and what have you there as well. So quite a bit of rubbish around there.
Yep. With respect, like Paul, that should just go in as a service request. So you should just put that through as a service request.
I realise that, but while
okay. Thanks for raising that, Paul. And Grant's got. Is there any other questions of Grant? All right, Grant. Well, thanks very much for coming along and briefing us on that, and we'll see you at the next board meeting. So
Thank you.
that'll be good. So
Thanks.
thank you very much. Thank you. Right, item 5, there's no adjourned business. Item 6 on pages 19 to 35 is the Southbrook Road pedestrian improvements. Jig, are you there for that? Don?
Yes, I'm here, Jim, and it'll be a bit of a tag team between Jig and myself.
Good.
So with me just starting the ball rolling, the board will recall that we've had a project on the books to look at the Southbrook Road improvements, and we began that process looking very broadly at the major improvements we could make. And you've received a briefing previously from a consultant that the council hired that looked at a whole range of well, not so much options, but issues and appropriate use of the space in terms of trying to deal with those. I think it became clear to everybody at that time that there are a large number of issues that really need to be worked through there. And at a recent meeting, the board agreed that it would postpone that large-scale review of Southbrook Road until some of the wider issues had fallen into place, and would concentrate instead on a much more achievable goal of improving pedestrian crossings of Southbrook. Following on from that, we've asked our internal consultants, PDU, to look at what our options are. And the result of that is Jig has prepared a report, which is in front of you today. And you'll see the recommendations in the covering report where we are seeking your mandate to consult with the community on those, our preferred option in principle, subject to that consultation. And if I could just throw over to Jig now to briefly talk through that report, and then we'll be open for any questions.
Thanks, Don. Jig?
Hi everyone, my name's Jig. I work in the PDU team. I'm a design engineer and I'm looking into Southbrook Road. So in the report that I've done, we've basically had a look at a few design options for Southbrook Road and what we can do to improve some of the safety. In particular, we had a look at pedestrian safety, but we've also considered some of the other elements such as some of the congestion as well as cyclists. Because we've got all those users in the area. So for those that don't know, Southbrook Road is one of the busiest roads in Rangiora. We've got about 26,000 vehicles that are driving through there every day, with our peak time being about 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So we had a look at a few options into improving the pedestrian safety. Because there's a large number of pedestrians that are crossing Southbrook Road, particularly to get to the 2 schools that are in the area, as well as that kindergarten that's near Denches Road and Marshall Road. When we had a look at the locations, we were thinking about the different groups of pedestrians that would be crossing Southbrook Road, and we came across, there's 4 main groups. There's the ones that are coming in from the north, that are coming in from north of South Belt area to cross the road. The way we see it, those pedestrians can cross at those Southbrook, South Belt intersection traffic lights. The second group would be those coming in from the south, say from Coronation Street area. The third group would be from the Pearson near about Pearson's Lane and all those houses in between, and they're crossing Southbrook Road. Generally, these pedestrians are crossing from the existing pedestrian crossing. And then the last group are those that are driving in from the south, dropping their kids off on Southbrook Road and then crossing the road. So when we considered these 3 catchments, we considered, okay, so how big are each of these groups? And we justified it based on the amount of people that are coming in from these groups and what infrastructure that they have originally. So we're at the largest group of pedestrians that we've got is on that Southbrook, Southbrook northern node. However, they've already got that infrastructure there, so we ranked them a little bit less. So we looked at potential options for putting traffic signals for these pedestrians to cross the road. And the way we saw it, there are 3 locations that we could put traffic signals. Somewhere near Denches Road in the Southborough intersection, We could signalise the existing pedestrian crossing, or we could signalise the Torley Street, Coronation Street intersection. With the Torley Street, Coronation Street intersection, we saw that there was a potential to combine the project with another project that NZTA is offering funding for, called the Innovative Street project. Bill was looking into some options and considering turning the school roads, which is Dentures Road and Marshall Road, one way. So we had a look at potentially considering the one-way option for option number 3. We undertook a multi-criteria analysis, multi-criteria assessment with a group of roading engineers, as well as me and Don. We had a look at the different categories, which were pedestrian, cyclists and vehicles, and our best ranked options, the highest ranked option was signalising that Torley Street intersection with one way. We saw multiple benefits in that aspect, which include efficiency of the South Brook Road, efficiency of the wider network, so which includes Dentures and Marshall Street, safety impacts for all the pedestrians, so the pedestrians are able to cross the road and they're not having to walk a long distance to cross the road, as well as cyclists are able to use the signalised intersection and safely turn. Going from there, we also had a look at some of the other options. We looked at, while Torley Street was our favourite option and our highest ranked option, we considered our second highest ranked option, which was signalising the existing pedestrian crossing. The main reason why we didn't really like the signalising the existing pedestrian crossing is it didn't have much benefit to the road network. It wouldn't help with the congestion. And there was a chance that if we look into 4-laning that road in the future, then there's a chance we might have to rip that out. So it wasn't our preferred. And our least preferred option was that Dentures Road intersection. The way we see it, we didn't want more traffic to go past the school and use the traffic lights to turn, because we would see a lot more rat runners down through the school that way. So the Dentures Road option was we didn't consider at all, but we did consider the existing pedestrian crossing and the Torley Street, signalising the Torley Street. Going further from that, we considered 2 design options, 2 ways that those 2 options would look like on paper, and we've drawn them up. So the first drawing in my report, I'm not sure if everyone has my report in front of them, but I've labelled that option 3 layout 2. Option 3 layout 2. So basically this would see the 2 lanes going northbound. So we would have 2 lanes going northbound all the way from Pack and Save through to Torley Street. The way we see it, that would have 2 lanes, so that would improve some road efficiency that way, so we wouldn't have people merging and then merging out and then merging and merging out. So we'd see some improvement there. However, because our road is constricted, this has meant 2 things. 1, we've only got 1 lane going southbound, and 2, we've got a shared footpath and cycleway. Secondly, with this option, we've had a look at the option of being able to do the one-way system through the school streets. This would see a right turn bay turning down Dentures Road. The second option that we've considered, signalising the Torley Street Torley Street South Road intersection, is an option where we've still got that 2-way northbound and 1-way southbound. However, we've removed the right turn into Torley Street. Basically, that gives us some space to keep the pedestrians and cyclists separate, which means safer for them. However, for those people that want to turn right, they would have to turn right down Dentures Road and go through that 1-way system. This would see improvements in terms of the school traffic, where the school traffic would be able to turn right down Dentures, drop their kids off, turn down Torley Street and come out the signalised traffic lights to turn right. I'm not sure if anyone's been there during school time. It's very difficult to turn out. The second design option that we considered was signalising the existing pedestrian crossing. We saw two options for this. One option would see we would just put some traffic lights in the islands in this way that they are. So a kid would push the button on one side, get to the middle of the road, and then push another button and go to the other side of the road. Option number two for signalising the existing pedestrian crossing is that we'd just have one signalised crossing. So a kid would press the button and cross the whole road while cars waited on both sides. And the way we saw it, CTOC were in preference of option number one, where they push the button, get to the middle, and then go again. CTOC being our Canterbury Traffic Operations Centre that we consulted with during this design process. And in terms of budget, we also spoke to CTOC about the budget and spoke to them about our budget for this project, which was $425,000. They were saying that generally these sort of signalising traffic light intersections really depend on a number of criteria, mostly how much traffic is going through the road and what sort of traffic management requirements that we need. They estimated that signalising the existing pedestrian crossing would cost somewhere between $300,000 to $500,000. However, they said that our preferred option, which was signalising the Torles Street intersection, would cost somewhere between 2.2 million, roughly, which is similar to what we spent on the South Brook Southbelt intersection. So with all said and done, we would like to take all these options out to the community to see what they think. We've made a few meetings with the schools to talk through these options after this board meeting. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. Hopefully they're happy with our options.
Okay, thanks, Jig. Any questions of Don and Jig? No questions? All right, is someone prepared to move?
If I can get in, I can't.
Sorry.
It's Robbie here. Just with regard,
Hi, Robbie.
The obvious question is going to be, is there going to be some sort of cohesion between the traffic lights that are currently there and a possible new set of traffic lights so that people aren't stop, start, which happens frequently in the city?
Yes, so some of the newer lights in the city, they've got this new system where I'm not sure if you've been there, you can just drive straight through. So with our systems, they're all compatible with that, so we can make them go. So when one turns green, then you'll be green on the next one, green on the next one.
And the clearway option is the clearway option's not in here. Is the clearway option still on the table as part of this consultation?
The wider treatment of the full stretch, Robbie, is I suppose in a way being parked up for the meantime, and all this work will do is look at crossing the road, getting pedestrians across the road. And so any other option of what we do with cyclists, with pedestrians, with vehicles, with buses, will not be addressed as part of this work. What we will be looking to ensure is that we do future-proof our design so that it will allow for whatever of those options may emerge in the future, and we will have the space to do so. Just answering your first question as well a little further to Jig's answer, what we're anticipating is that during peak morning and peak evening, the trigger for the lights would be set on a timer. And so on that basis, we would be able to, green wave the lights so that they went one after the other. And that would also ensure that the traffic didn't stop because one child came along and pushed the button. They would be, waiting for their 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever the timing would be, until such time as the timer had switched and they went across. And that would allow us to batch the pedestrians together. In the off-peak time, we would probably then just convert it back to a sensor type arrangement where either a car coming out Coronation Street or a pedestrian pushing the button would stop the traffic so that they could cross.
Jim, Kirsten here.
Further questions?
Jim,
Yeah,
Kirsten.
Kirsten.
Sorry. Don,
Yes.
can you confirm, do we have an indication of whether we can get any funding for that potential 1.5 to 3 million cost for the preferred option from NZTA?
We have an indication, Kirsten, but not a guarantee, and that's come in 2 different meetings with them. The first meeting we had was when we were alluding to them what we were thinking of, and the first person who was speaking, I guess, placed a bit of cold water on our thoughts, but the second person was in the meantime thinking about and looking into the current status and pointed out that Kia crossing is so far out of the guidelines that it in fact probably quite significantly swayed the ability to get funding quite a bit back the other way. Since that time, Joanne met just today with the right person again with the funding, and they are certainly, obviously, as you're well aware, we now begin a new 3-year cycle of funding. So whatever we spend this year must be spent, and there's no guarantee of anything after June. But the signals very much are that they believe that an application for this would be viewed very sympathetically it coming in the new 3-year round. Now, whether that appeared in the first year, we couldn't guarantee that, but it's certainly they are positive of the benefit of this work.
So following up from that question, are you comfortable going to the community with these options when there's a possibility that this won't be funded?
I think we are definitely, and it's a very good point, we'll definitely be making sure that the caveats are well clear, that this is, at this stage, not guaranteed, but we will be claiming the money. But there is no guarantee as to either whether it will be funded or, if so, the timing of that. So yes, we're sort of well aware that we need to wrap that caveat around, and it is a slightly tricky conversation to have. But of course, we can't wait for that confirmation if we're going to spend our money this year on the design and get it ready to go.
And just a question from the traffic engineering, following up from Robbie's question. What does the traffic modelling say for the afternoon when the traffic lights are signalised for the school children to cross and the traffic is backed up past Mitre 10 and Pack and Save? Is that going to block that intersection?
To be honest, we haven't yet got into the detailed modelling stage of it, Kirsten, and that would come as part of our next phase. And a lot of that will start to determine things like the timing that a particular phase will stay green before it triggers. So there is certainly quite a bit of work, and I think both you and Robbie are right that these questions will be uppermost in people's minds when we go to them, because as we all know, the devil is in the detail. But we don't have the answers to those matters at this stage, but they will be well thought through before we committed to a detailed design.
But shouldn't you have those answers before you go out for consultation? Because that may not make it the preferred option.
It's a good challenge. It's a good challenge to put to us. We are on a pretty tight time frame, as you can see from the report in front of us. And I guess if the board is of a mind you know, we could do more work before we went to the public, but there is then an increased likelihood that we wouldn't proceed as far as we had hoped.
Any further questions of Don or Jig? All right. Is someone, we've got a recommendation in front of us. Is anyone
I'd like to
prepared
move
to move it?
I'd move that.
Moved by Paul. Have we a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by
Robbie.
Robbie. Paul, do you wish to speak?
No,
Robbie, thank you.
you know, I've looked into it quite hard, and I was on that wee bit of a committee that we sort of studied it quite hard and had a couple of meetings on it. I think that is the best proposal we can do for the safety and everything for the street and for the long term. And I also think it will actually help alleviate a lot of the traffic as well going there. So it actually hits the pedestrians really good. I shouldn't say hits, it's going to help the pedestrians pretty good. Also, I personally believe it's going to help a lot of the traffic issues with the one-way, with the people dropping people off, and they won't have to pull out against the flow of traffic. And it will also help the cycling side of it as well. So I think it's a win-win in all directions. So I'm very supportive of doing what we're looking at. Okay.
Robbie?
Yeah, look, I agree with those comments.
Robbie?
However, with regard to the win-win, there's still a heck of a lot of work to be done on this section of road. Hence my question with regard to clearways. Fully accept the comments that Don made, that it is going to be a work in progress, but I think going out for consultation on this is a good step in the right direction. Fully appreciating the questions that Kirsten asked. But I do think we need to go out for consultation. And if the public asks those questions, then we deal with those questions.
Jim?
All right, thank you, Robbie. Anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, Kirsten.
Kirsten?
I'm not going to impose, obviously, going out to consultation. I'm always happy to have conversations with our ratepayers. However, I think this is highly premature. I think that modelling work needs to be done. And I actually am very, very concerned about this design. I think that the concept is absolutely brilliant for pedestrians, but it is going to clog up traffic in South Brook even worse than what we've got now from what I've seen. And it's even going to cause some impacts on the Pack and Save Mitre 10 intersection. So I'm hoping that'll come out in the consultation and that some more work will be done. But I'm really nervous about raising people's expectations when we do not have promise of funding, and we simply do not have $1.5 to $3 million in the current budget. NZTA's priorities have changed, so we may be hopeful of receiving a bit more money, but I would rather see this work done properly. And I'm really nervous that we're going to get pushed back and that all we're going to get is a signalised crossing across South Brook Road, and that's literally all we can afford with $425,000. So I just caution the idea of raising too high an expectation. This does not solve the traffic issues in South Brook Road. It will make them worse, but it will help the pedestrian and cycling issues.
Anybody else? Paul, do you want to reply?
No, thank you.
All right, I'll put the recommendation. You're all aware of it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, was there anyone opposed? I can't see. Okay, declare it carried. That takes us on to item 6.2, pages 36 to 40, request for parking restrictions. Joanne, are you there?
Hi, Jim. Yes, I am.
Okay, is Joanne there?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't got you.
Thank you. So
Right.
this report is asking the community board to consider a request for P120 parking in Durham Street, outside of Durham Health and the pharmacy. Staff have been approached by Durham Health requesting this time restriction due to all-day parking occurring outside of the doctors and the pharmacy, and this affecting their patient access to these services. There's two options which I've put in the paper in front of the board for consideration today. The first is to support the change of 4 parks directly outside of Durham Health and Pharmacy to change to P120 parking restrictions. Or the second option is to decline the request and continue to monitor the parking within that area. I'm happy to take any questions you may have on this report.
Right, any questions of Joanne?
One for me. Yeah, Joanne. Durham
Paul?
Health. Yep, Durham Health. How many existing of their own car parking sites have they got on site?
They do have a number of parks. I think they have around half a dozen at the front, and they also do have some parks at the rear. And the pharmacy does have some parking outside of it as well. I think this is about parking turnover for them. They obviously have a number of people coming in requiring access for doctor's appointments and also picking up prescriptions and the like from the chemist.
And supplementary to that, do you know if they make their staff park in their own car parks, or do their staff park out on the road?
I believe their staff will be parking on the road, not in the doctor's car parks.
Okay.
Further questions of Joanne? There are none. All right, we've got a recommendation in front of us. 6.2, is someone prepared to move it or move a recommendation? I can't see you all, so just call out.
I'll move, Jim.
Someone prepared? Sorry, is that Robbie?
Yeah.
Moved by Robbie, seconded by?
I'll second it.
I'll second it then. Paul, was that Paul? Okay.
It was, yeah.
Robbie, do you wish to speak?
Look, it's symptomatic of just Jim. All I've got to say is it's symptomatic of increasing industrialisation, albeit doctors and pharmacies and what have you in our CBD, and I think it's this is necessary.
Thank you.
So can I just confirm
Paul,
that?
do you wish to add anything?
I'll let Joanne have a.
Sorry, I was just going to ask to confirm.
Recommending A and B. A
Right,
and B
thank you.
has been moved and seconded.
Yeah, no, I agree
Paul, do
with
you wish to
Robbie.
speak?
Yeah, no, I agree with Robbie. So it's something we have to do, really.
Any
all.
other member wish to? All right, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. I've just come up on my screen, as members know I'm struggling here a wee bit. I see the Mayor there. Welcome to our meeting, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see you there. Right, item 6.3, bus stops. Kathy, is she there?
I'm here.
Kathy Graham?
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You've got a bit of an echo
Yeah,
there.
I can. Yeah, there's a bit of a noise behind you.
Right, yeah, sorry, I've got quite low internet here, so I don't have a phone number to call in, which would have been helpful. Okay, you don't have one at all, do you?
No, I'm afraid not.
No, we can hear you, Kathy.
Yes, you can. Okay, great. So this report to the bus.
You're breaking up, Kathy.
I can't hear you, Kathy.
Oh, she's disappeared.
I'm afraid are you there, Kathy?
She's just coming back. She's just reconnecting.
Right.
Hear me?
No, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I'm just going to check my phone and see if it makes a difference. The standby for and I may just I'm just going to hide my video because that doesn't help. Also, I'll just if that's okay. So Sorry, Jim, can you hear me now?
I can. Can other members all hear? Yes,
Right,
I think
okay.
so.
I'll talk quickly. There are a number of bus stops that have been looked at to service the new bus routes, the one being the Rangiora to Pegasus route and the blue line that is going to be extending out west of Rangiora. Consultation has been done with a number of residents who are adjacent to or affected by the bus stops, and where there has been any strong objections, alternative locations have been sought. There are just 2 stops that I'm not going to go through them all because there's around 22 in the list, but there are 2 stops that will require some removal of marked car parking places. And the first one of those is a stop outside 406A High Street, which is just west of the Plough Hotel. The resident there was, while not overly happy to have a bus stop outside, did accept that it had to go somewhere, but wanted to retain some parking. His gateway into his property is there, although his driveway is around the corner on a side street. The Plough Hotel were happy to lose some parking, but suggested the place, putting it outside their bottle store probably wasn't suitable. So there's 4 car park spots that are just west of the Plough's driveway on the west-hand side, which we could remove the marked car park there and put the bus stop there. There's no time restricted parking there. It's just that there are marked spots. The second one of note is down on Kippenberger Ave, where there's an old existing bus shelter. It was a shelter. It was a stop before. There has been some car parks marked there. They would need to be removed. And there's three there. The residents there have been, the owner of the property has been spoken to and is happy for that to be done. Just one other point is we would like to give some consideration to a stop being installed at some stage on Blackett Street, which would provide greater coverage for the Rangiora to Pegasus route. That would require removal of some time restricted parking in that area and consultation with a couple of residential and business properties there. So I just happy to take any questions, but as I say, I won't go through all the stops, but there's a rather a long list there of 22 stops, some that are new, some that are reinstated ones that have been bus stops that were used before and may have been used by school buses of late. And as I've mentioned, just those 2 that need to have the car parking removed.
Thanks, Kathy. Is there any questions of Kathy? If you've got concerns on any of them, it's a good idea to ask Kathy while she's
one from me
at this stage. Paul?
Yeah. Kathy, have we done a survey to see those ones on High Street? How well those car parks are used? Are they, is there plenty of normal parking in that area before we take them out? And also the same with Kippenberger Avenue.
So the ones in High Street do get used probably, and this is just an observation of my own, they do get used when people are stopping for the dairy, probably more often in the evening time. I have come through there several times and there's been 1 or 2 cars parked. There is a number of car parking spaces there available. We would still be retaining 3 spots there, and there's also all the parking in front of the Plough Hotel as well as the parking on the other side. The Plough Hotel itself has a parking area, as you know, and he was happy that parking out in the street could be removed to allocate for the bus. Kippenberger Ave, again, there was some feedback from one business office staff who felt they would have to walk further because, who felt they might have to park further down the road. There's certainly plenty of parking in Kippenberger Ave further down, but it would require people to perhaps walk a little bit. And the daycare centre, which is opposite the one I've mentioned with the car parking, they acknowledged that the bus stop could go there, but they were also keen to retain a 1 or 2 parks outside their place. So some of these we will have to monitor and see if people parking around the stop on it.
Yeah. What I was mainly meaning was the High Street one particularly. If you take, is the parking completely full up there already, you know, quite often, or I know there's a bit of parking there now, but is that parking completely full now? Will losing those 4 parks adversely affect parking for the dairies and what have you, for example?
So without sort of being there every night and questioning or watching where the people are going, it's hard to tell if the car that might be parked there, or the 1 or 2, that they may actually be in the pub. And I guess we would have to do that over a week to see whether people are just parking there because it's easy, or parking there because they're going to the dairy or crossing the road. There's a side street by the dairy. There is a number of parking, you know, just roadside parking that is available. We tend to like having the bus stop near a dairy as well, because it's a safe place and people may want to access the dairy that are using the bus as well. I wouldn't think the impact would be huge. It might mean people have to walk a little bit further, and that would be the main issue.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Couple from
Any
me,
further
Jim.
questions?
Yes, please, Kirsten.
Yep, where you go.
Kathy and Joanne,
Kirsten?
Kippenberger Ave. I just had a wee look. I just wondered where was the previous bus stop that you're now putting outside Pepper Tree on the other side of the road? Because obviously it was a previous route when Woodend had a bus service, and you're putting an existing one where there is still a bus stop. Where was the previous bus stop on the other side of the road?
Look, to be honest, Kirsten, I'm not entirely sure. I have a feeling it might have been closer to the eastbound intersection, but the roundabout went in. So yeah, I suspect it was probably opposite. And yeah, so now obviously we don't want it in that position close to the roundabout because it's not safe for the in that area. So hence moving it further back.
So there's no room to put it closer to the warehouse area, like actually in the warehouse area at all?
No, there's not enough road reserve there, and it's all no parking through there. Yeah.
Right. And the second question I've got a big concern with Devlin Avenue, opposite Devlin Avenue, and the space there. We're already having trouble with cars turning right there, and cars going around them. Even though it's a lowered speed limit, they go quite fast because it's currently looks like a rural environment. Why have you put the bus directly opposite the intersection and not staggered it slightly either forward or back?
So there is an existing sort of lay-by area there at the moment that
which people use to pass cars that are turning right.
Yeah, so we'll look to widen that. The school bus stops there now as well, so we will look to widen it. There is trees all through there as well, so there's quite limited space to try and secure another area that's long enough for a bus to pull into and pull out of. It would probably require the removal of some of the trees, the roadside trees, which it's probably not desirable.
Which may have to go under the new plan that Grant talked about with the development as well. So I'm just raising that as a concern because, and which school bus are you talking about? Because there's no longer Rangiora students coming from Woodend.
Yeah, look, I know that was some time ago.
I thought that route had finished.
Yeah, I'm just off the top of my head. This was a little while back that the bus stop was stopping near the school bus. So yeah,
I just wondered whether there would be any room to pull it back closer to more the is it McPhail Ave area, because there's a lot more population in that area as well. I just wondered about just a consideration of not putting it quite so close to that busy intersection where we do get traffic speeding. Yeah, look, it's again. There's not actually a lot of shoulder room through there, and also just conscious that Devlin Ave will be a feeder into that area as well.
It would have been nice. Even the one on the other side is not that ideal. It's just east of Evelyn Ave, but again, the road is very narrow. We have cycle lanes further down as well on road, which presents another problem. But look, we will monitor all these bus stops and certainly take any feedback on board that if residents or motorists give us any feedback.
That was my major concern, that one. I'm concerned about traffic safety in that area.
Sure. Yep, no, take that on board. Thank you.
Well, you've got an assurance, Kirsten. They'll be monitored, so that's good news. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Is someone, we've got a recommendations there.
Oh, can I ask? Do you mind?
Monique?
My initial thought.
Of course, go for it.
Excuse me. My initial thought was a number of the parks and a number of the bus stops are directly opposite intersections. Is that considered the safest place for them? As in, I just thought you'd have a bit of a bottleneck with traffic potentially turning and traffic coming out from intersections. But I imagine in your, since you've studied the subject, you know more about how bus stops are supposed to be positioned. Do you get my drift?
Sorry, I just missed the first part of your question. You're talking about buses close to intersections?
Yeah, the bus stops seem to be
Correct.
directly in front of quite a number of intersections. And I presume that is considered a safer option for them. Is that correct? So
it can depend. We try not place them where they will block visibility for cars pulling out onto an intersection. But the reason for putting them fairly close to intersections is they help to serve the catchment area. So that's where people access the stop from. So the likes of High Street. So a number of them are fairly close to intersections, but definitely trying to mitigate the safety aspects. Often the intersection also has good lighting, and that is another key area that we look for in providing safety for people getting on and off the buses, trying to provide some good lighting. So while, yeah, look, there can be sort of concerns one way, it's trying to mitigate them another way. And yeah, again, we will keep an eye on all of these, and if we get feedback that there are concerns, we'll certainly address them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Jim, Morris here. I just basically,
Yep, Morris.
I'm very interested in Paul and Kirsty's comments. The bus stop outside the Plough, to me, is going to do away with car parks, which do have cars in them quite often, and I travel backwards and forwards that way. Another concern, the one on Kippenberger Avenue, when they subdivide, well, put the houses on Inch's property, is there going to be, no doubt there's going to be an entranceway onto Kippenberger Avenue? Is that going to in some way tie in with the bus stop now, or is it going to have to shift it? Or seems an odd place to put a bus stop outside Evelyn Ave.
Kathy?
Again, again, it comes back to where we can actually fit a bus stop in. It's around 25 metres that you need for the bus, at a minimum, for the bus to pull in and to be able to pull out. So, as I say, there is an area there now, and if the layout changes, certainly we will address that. And I can't forecast that, or I can't sort of plan for that without knowing exactly what's going on. But just in regard to the parking back by the Plough, yeah, look, it's just it's incredibly difficult to get residents to agree to have a bus stop outside their property. For whatever reason, they do have some thoughts about bus users, which yeah, where that comes from, I'm not sure, but so trying to mitigate that by utilising areas that are going to be the least impact on residents is one of the reasons that we've chosen some of the areas. Happy to go back and have another look, but I suspect we may still have some walls with, as I say, people objecting to a bus stop outside their property.
Any other questions? I will just observe that I think bus stops are one of the more difficult issues you deal with as a community board member over the years, because as Kathy said, no one says they're in the right place, and they're only in the right place if they're well away from your home. So it's always been a sort of difficult situation. Right, we've got some recommendations in front. Is someone prepared to test the meeting or move something? Someone must have an idea. Well, I'll test the meeting then. I'll move A, and B approves the installation of the listed. Have I seconded for that?
Yes, I will. Sarah.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, I don't really want to say anything. I think the questions asked are all been really relevant. Kathy has said that she will monitor the stops to make sure that concerns are indeed looked at. I think the one Morris raised along East Belt's a very valid point he makes too. So I just moved it to move it along and hope that, and in the knowledge that staff will indeed check what's happening. Sarah, do you wish to add anything?
I think there's some good ones
Sarah?
there. Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me or not?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, there's some good ones on there. I've had a good read of them, and round where I live, which is near River Road, we had some gaps which I can see have been catered for, so that's good. I'm happy.
Any other members wish to speak?
Yep. Yeah, I'll be voting for this, but I would actually really like the staff to be a bit more investigation on the Kippenberger Avenue one, and also the one outside the Player, because I wouldn't like to see, every time I've been past there, particularly by the Player there, it's very hard to get parking, and also down by the Kippenberger Avenue, parking is at a premium as well. So I just like to see a wee bit more investigation there, but overall I would support this.
Any other contributions?
Yes, Kirsten.
Yes.
Just to reiterate that my questions were in no way concerned about what the staff are trying to do. We have to have these bus stops. They have to be near population centres, and it's never easy finding a space to put them. And I totally agree with what they've tried to do in all these situations. I'm happy that they've agreed to monitor, but I do think that safety should come before a tree. So, you know, if it is necessary, that should be brought to the board. And if anything does happen in those situations, because I have seen some near misses at McPhail Ave with cars not being able to get past, and at Kippenberg Ave, Devlin Ave. So I'm just wanting to make sure that we keep the finger on the pulse on those, because people still have to come first, and the bus stops have to be put in those locations. So Kathy, thank you very much for a good job. You've tried so hard to not cause trouble for residents, which I can see you've done a lot of work in that space. And you're always going to get complaints, but I think what you've done is very balanced and it's very fair. And as Sarah said, it's going to actually benefit an awful lot of residents who've really wanted this bus service, particularly in the west of Rangiora and in Woodend and Pegasus. So thank you very much for the work you've done.
Okay. Anybody else? Someone wanting to speak? No one wanting to speak. All right, I'll put the recommendation. Was someone wanting to speak?
No, it's just me, Jim. I was just going to say.
Recommendation.
Sorry, I was just going to say I will. I will go back and have a look at certainly the plough one and see if we can't mitigate that. So yeah, just wanted to note that.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. That's good. All right, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary,
aye.
Declare it carried. Aye. Yeah. Right. Moving on to 6.4. That's for information. Kay, do you want to add anything there? That's just
nothing,
really for information. So
yes, there's nothing else other than
someone prepared to move that. Okay, someone prepared to move it. Moved by Sarah, seconded by Monique.
Yeah.
Happy with that? Good. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Item 7, correspondence. Who would be keen or would like to be the community board rep to the Sustainability Strategy Steering Group? Please indicate. Monique, would you like to do that? That would be probably suit you, or you'd be good for the represent the board there. Is anyone volunteering?
What is it about, Jim?
If you had read the agenda, you would have seen it in the main book. It's really just to look at the way forward for the community on sustainability. Kay, do you want to add to that? Right.
I haven't really got very much to say other than I have been told that the Sustainability Steering Group will be being a lot of liaison with the community and the board and the council to move forward sustainable options. And also the climate change subcommittee will also eventually join up with this group, and it will become, the two of them will work to get good outcomes for the council and the community regarding sustainability and climate change.
Right. Have we got anyone that's prepared to?
Jim, maybe to make it a little less scary is, I mean, it might feel like you've got quite a responsibility. Like maybe how many people would you be on a group with if you're part of it?
There's a council rep and one from each community board.
Right. It just might help someone make a decision if they don't feel like, you know.
Mr. Chair, if you're happy for us to comment, because we were given quite a good briefing on this.
That would be most helpful, I think.
Thank you. This group is combining the sustainability champions that we've already got in staff within the organisation with the governance side of things. So there is actually 2 councillors, Councillor Mealings and Councillor Blackie on this group. And then we've asked for a rep from each of the community boards so that we get community input as well. The first thing is getting our own house in order so that the council makes sure that it is practicing sustainable practices, and then looking at how the council can facilitate sustainability in the community. So they're not completely responsible for sustainability through the whole district, but it's actually a starting point to try and look at some practices, and we would really value the community input on that.
Thank you, Kirsten, for that. That was most helpful, I have to say. So you've got a better idea of what it's about. Who wants to? Who would be interested?
Yes, Andy.
I'll do it.
Who's that?
Andy.
I don't know. I can't.
Andy.
Who was it?
Andy.
Oh, sorry, Andy. You're not on my screen, so.
That is okay, Jim. I'm fine with that.
I think Nick had two.
No, I'm not. Okay, so Andrew Wells is happy to do that. So someone prepared to move that, inserting the name of Andrew.
I'm happy to move that, Jim.
Moved by Kirsten, seconded by?
I'll second it, Sarah.
Sarah, thank you. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yep, just very quickly commenting, this group
Yep.
is the starting point, and they will report back to the community board for us to also give further input. So everybody is involved in sustainability. And thank you, Andrew, for putting your hand up for it. I'm sure you'll find it quite enlightening.
Yeah. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Item 8.1, I'll move the adoption of the chair's report. If we're seconded for that.
Yes, I'll do it, Sarah.
Prepared to second it?
Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Item 9 is for information. Requires a motion to receive the information. I'll move it. Have I seconded for that? Someone seconding, please.
Monique will second if you like.
Monique seconded. put that. All those in favour, please say aye. The contrary,
Aye.
declare it carried. As I indicated at the start, we've now got Don Young for a brief briefing on Flaxton. So Don, over to you. Is Don Young there?
Thank you, Jim. Yes, I am.
Yep.
Thanks, Jim. I'll just do a share screen if that's all right. The intention here is just to bring the board up to speed with Flaxton Road and where we've got to as a result of previous resolutions by the board and council. We had generally agreed on a shared path on the western side of Flaxton Road. Subsequent to that, we've been undertaking detailed design, and that has highlighted in more detail the issues we would face by building a western cycleway or shared path. And the shot that you can see at the moment, the pictures you can see, highlight in red the areas where we would need to build a retaining wall along the side of that drain in order to retain the drain in such a way that we could fit in the 2.5 metre shared path. And the yellow is where there would still be significant road shaping to do. And this part here is further down towards Kingsford Smith is at the bottom of the page you can see here. So as you can see, there is an extensive length of red, i.e. the retained section. The result of that, when we've costed that up, is it would exceed our budget by in the order of $800,000 or so. And that's, as you can understand, a pretty significant cost. We have looked at other options for staying on the west, including narrowing down the shared path and potentially narrowing up some of the road alignment. Neither of these were preferred. We'd still retain a very risky location, which could be scoured out even with the additional protection, and we would have compromised on our level of service. What staff have been working on since then, and you can see in this slide here, and I appreciate these slides are very difficult to see, so what we will be doing is forwarding these plans to you within the next couple of days so that you can view them in the privacy of your own home. And effectively, what we have drawn on here is an eastern footpath. Now, I'm aware that there was some conversation earlier on about whether we should go east and west, and as a result of that, the western one was preferred for a number of reasons which are of benefit to the pedestrians and cyclists. Unfortunately, with this additional information, those initial thoughts are outweighed by the issues that we're now facing with regard to the stability of the drain. So effectively, what we would like to suggest to the board is that we do go back and revisit the eastern drain. Why this is important for the board to reasonably urgently get a briefing on this is that we do have a pretty tight time frame that will be necessary for us to keep this moving and spend our money. This slide I'm showing up now, again, you'll find some real difficulty in seeing at this stage, but what we would intend to do, and I've just met with your chair and the mayor and Paul Williams just prior to this board meeting, and that's when we agreed that we would look to squeeze a briefing in so we could keep you informed. But what I'm looking to do is go to the council meeting on the 1st of September and get approval to consult on an eastern path. We would then go back and engage with the business owners and come back but prior to going to the business owners, we would come to your next board meeting and seek your agreement as well. Now that'll be a little bit chicken and egg, in that the council meeting will have probably met will have met before your next board meeting. So any approval they gave will be subject to your agreement as well. So the two things I'm undertaking to do is firstly circulate to you the plans and this PowerPoint presentation, which I prepared for discussing with Jim and Dan and Paul, and allowing you the opportunity to come back as individuals to me as we progress through this, and then secondly also undertaking that we'll come to your next board for a more formal resolution. We would then be going to discuss this issue with the businesses and coming back to the council and the board at the end of that to get your agreement before going to tender. So I need to really go back through and work out this time frame to make sure we have the time to do all of that. The current time frame that's on the screen at the moment does have us building this from early January through till the end of April, and then the resurfacing, which you may recall is happening half this year and half in the next financial year to fit in with our maintenance budgets, would take place after that. But we do apologise for this. We know that you have already made a decision, and we're back in front of you seeking a change to that. But this is sometimes what happens when you look more closely at these issues that we thought would have been able to be dealt with through the design process. But we have sought geotechnical advice, and they have clearly identified that the risk of losing our pathway is pretty high, and that the cost of mitigating that risk then makes this an extremely expensive project. So I appreciate I've given you a very brief briefing without very much information there, but we did think it was important that we bring you up to speed with what we're planning on doing, and I'll circulate more information in the next couple of days, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Don, for that, and thank you for the briefing with Dan and Paul just a couple of hours ago. It became quite apparent during the briefing that the cost escalation just meant that what we were looking at previously as a board wasn't really a starter, and with the weakness of the drain banks, it was quite clear that changes had to be made. And Don told us at that briefing that it may be possible to add up to 10 parks down there on the where if the road can be widened in places to allow parking along where the drain has got stability. So that makes sense to me too. So thank you, Don, for that. Questions of Don?
Just one from me, Jim.
Yep.
It's just
yes, Kirsten.
Sorry, refresh my memory, Don. What were the major objections to going on to the eastern side?
We are going to need to be compromising with that shared path alignment in a couple of ways. Firstly, there are power poles down the middle of that verge, and so there will be places where the shared path actually splits around those power poles. In order to provide safe width on either side, we will need to be building out into the roadway through those, not into the carriageway, but where it would impact on parking. In addition to that, we were mindful that a cycleway close to the fences can be have some safety issues. And what we've done there is we, in particular at the Rangiora landscape, we have shifted again the cycleway out by a margin to allow a green strip. So there will be some degree of separation between the fence and the cycleway. We will be including in our design judder bars on the driveways as people are exiting those, and also signage for the cyclists to show that they're approaching those issues. So it certainly elevates some safety issues, which we will need to carefully design. We've looked at that with Bill Rice, our traffic engineer, and we've also had a preliminary feedback from our road safety auditors. Both of them have commented not ideal, but can be managed. So we certainly know we have some issues there, and I'm sure they will be raised in no uncertain terms when we do go to those eastern businesses, and we will need to talk carefully with them about how we manage those.
Any other questions of Don?
Yeah, I've just got a question.
All right, Don. Well, thank you very much. Sorry.
It's Morris here, Jim.
Morris, is it?
Don.
Yep.
Early on, it was discussed
Yes,
about
go for it.
piping the drain, but that was going to cost about $1 million, which was unaffordable. Is there a stage into the future where that may be done to give you what you actually want, or what you're proposing now, is that going to be sort of final? We're always going to have that drain there, and the footpath will be on the eastern side.
I think, in fairness, Morris, it would be probably appropriate to see it as being final for the next 15 or 20 years. This will set in stone, I think, the layout for the foreseeable future, and it would take some quite significant change to go to that next level of expensive piping that drain. And I would note, we have, when we looked at putting the cycleway on the eastern side, we have done a little bit of an analysis of then being able to potentially, in the future, build a footpath only 1.5 metres on the western side. Now, that's not part of this current plan, and that would be another $300,000 or so. But I would point out that if we took on board the suggestion made by Jim and Dan and Paul at the briefing that we do allow for some parking on that western side, then that will probably eliminate the ability to put a footpath down that side in the future, because we wouldn't be able to align that curb to allow space behind it, because we would in fact be aligning that curb closer to the drain to allow parking in the intermediate place. So as usual, there are some trade-offs there, and if the important thing is seen as allowing for some car parking, it probably eliminates the footpath all of the way along the length. But sorry, just one more point. We are only taking the drain, the 2.5 metre cycleway as far as the transfer station. And what we have allowed in the price is for a crossing point in the middle of the road and a 1.5 metre footpath on the western side of the road to link it all the way down to Kingsford Smith Drive. So the eastern shared path option does include a short stretch of western footpath just north of Kingsford Smith Drive.
Dawn, could that cycleway also link through by the station there to the Passchendaele path?
Yes, we've as you know, Kitty has some plans on buying a strip of land alongside the existing driveway. Now, whether that land is sufficient to also allow for...
is it?
No, it's actually Jarman's.
Okay.
But what a potential other option is that we look to taking a strip of land along the frontage of Jarman's to link down to Daniel Smith's new venture. And we've discussed this briefly with Daniel at one of the other meetings about the roundabout. And he is actually quite keen on the idea of it being on the east, because he sees that as being the natural side that people will want to be on if they're going on through Flaxton and on down potentially to his new venture, but also potentially wrapping around into Fernside Road and getting out onto Passchendaele down that short of stretch of Fernside Road.
Thank you. Other questions of Don? All right, Don, well, thank you very much for that keeping the board updated on the Flaxton area. It's appreciated. Right, item 10, members' information exchange. I'm just, Kirsten, start with you.
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm coming. Sorry, I was just trying to find my email because I'd actually emailed something through to, sorry, one moment. Oh, telephone. Right, yes, very quickly, I attended the COVID-19 social recovery workshop, and there'll be further follow-ups about social recovery in our district. I've been part of the 4 September event planning. Obviously, we don't know what will happen now with the change of status, but at the moment we're full stream ahead for an event in Kaiapoi on Friday the 4th of September at 5 p.m. We encourage everybody to come along. I attended the Waimakere Visitor Strategy Workshop, which was a really interesting look at how we might have to reposition ourselves with domestic tourism and plans going forward. And I've attended the Solid Waste Working Party, but I'll let Robbie deal on that. On quick council news, the draft cemetery strategy is now out for consultation, so there'll be a chance for the board to input on that. And the draft climate change policy was approved at council, but the consultation on that is to be advised. So we just needed to have a policy in place and then take it out to the community for some conversations ongoing. And the latest natural hazards, latest modelling of maps has now been released. And there's presentations obviously coming up on the 28th and 29th of August in Rangiora. That's the 29th of August at 5 p.m. And during this month, the board will be emailed access to the maps, the new maps with the new flooding projections based on the latest modelling. And if you've got any questions, come back to staff on that. It's predominantly the biggest changes are in Kaiapoi, and in some cases it's actually for the better, but it does require us to make some adjustments to the district plan in terms of floor height and modelling going forward. So they're not as relevant for Rangiora, but still of great interest. And that's me.
Thank you, Kirsten. I don't think Duncan's with us, is he?
No.
No. Right, Robbie. I'm taking your names off the agenda in the order they appear, so you might wonder when you're coming up. So, Robbie, you're next, please.
Just trying to unmute. Yeah, Joint Landfill Committee met this week, so we've adopted the SOI with Transwaste. Joint Standing Committee met after that, and there were 5 projects that received funding for a reduction of waste. Touching on what Kirsten mentioned, and this is very important, the Solid and Hazardous Waste Working Party have been dealing with a very serious issue with regard to recycling. Recycling has cost our district $122,000 over a 3-month period. A letter is going out to all households, albeit to the addressed person. So if you're a landlord, you need to pass this letter on to your tenants with regard to your recycling and how you are managing to recycle. The rejection rates are horrendous, and depending on how this COVID thing pans out, we will be looking at auditing in September. We're looking at potentially people losing the option of a yellow bin for systematic failure to recycle appropriately, and hence those auditors will be going out. Look, in a nutshell, given the format that we're in, I can't go into too much detail. A letter is coming out, it's been drafted. For heaven's sake, read the letter, encourage people that you know to read the letter, and if you are a landlord, encourage your tenants to read the letter. The ramifications of how we're currently recycling is not sustainable, and changes need to be made. So that's my big message for tonight, Jim, given the current format.
Thank you, Robbie. It was raised with me, Robbie, that there was an article in the paper the council had there about the issues you raise, and to look for the letters recycle and the triangle on the bottom. There are some plastic things that look all right that have got recyclable written on the bottom, but they're actually imports from Australia and they don't meet our criteria, as I understand it, just so you're aware of that. It was raised with me, so I said I'd tell you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
There'll be a number. There should be a number down in the bottom of the plastic container that will indicate whether it's acceptable. A new magnet, a new sticky. Sorry, Kirsten's idea was a magnet. We're not doing the magnet. But there's a new sticky that's going to be going into the yellow bin. You can put it in, which will clearly explain it. So yeah, but it's all in the letter. The big thing is the letter.
Good. Okay, that's good, Robbie. Thank you very much, Monique. Monique.
Hi. Yes. Yeah. Hello. Mine relates to Keep Rangiora Beautiful.
Hello.
They Keep Rangiora Beautiful were concerned about Flaxon Road and lack of trees, etc., and beautification on these new road. You know, when they're developing these roads, that we're not, as a community board, considering the beautification of the roads. And so I said maybe they should come along to the community board meeting and educate us on how we should consider that when we approve road designs, or when we sort of have our say about them. Maybe we could consider having them more attractive to the public eye with trees, etc. I know Flaxon Road was the one they were concerned about, but obviously it's rather narrow and very difficult to probably put anything too beautiful along it. But that was something that came up with them. So another thing from that meeting was someone suggested perhaps Rangiora might consider having murals as an attraction, as like a tourist attraction for the town. I understand a group won some award for a mural for Blake Street. I'm not quite sure of the details, but maybe it can be considered as an attraction to consider putting murals up. Anyway, that's me. Thank you.
Well, certainly, Monique, the murals on iCare on that corner are fantastic. That's beautification on murals. You mentioned Keep Rangiora Beautiful. Greg Miller still chair of that?
Yes.
He only has to ask any groups very welcome to come to the community board at the start of our meeting and have 10 minutes to tell us what they're doing. So you can pass on an invitation to Greg. If he just contacts Kay, he'd be very welcome. Thank you. Is Jason with us?
Hello.
Is Jason there?
Yep. Nothing of note over
your
the
turn,
last
Jason.
month. Yep, nothing of note over the last month.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Morris.
Yes, I'm here, Jim. Just attended a couple of meetings with you and Monique and Paul with the Southport Road. I've just on Neighbourly been monitoring what people's opinions are of taking those trees down by the Ashley Bridge, which ECAN done, and also the quarry. It's quite interesting reading people's views and comments on that. Apart from that, that's all I've got to report, Jim.
Thank you, Morris. I'll talk to Kay have a debrief with you tomorrow morning, Kay, if you're there. And we need to find out where the quarry's at, so the board has plenty of time to prepare a submission if we're still in a position to be able to do that and not all locked up. Dan, did you have a comment? No. Okay, Sarah.
Sorry, were you asking me to comment, Jim? Sorry, what was that?
No, I said I saw you move your hand. And I thought you might have wanted to make.
Oh
a comment.
no, thank you.
No, that's right, Sarah.
Hi, Jim. I've had a quietish month, but I thought I'd just mention everyone knows that I run a cycling and walking group out here. And the Christchurch City Council contacted me. They've got a group there that organise a rather large walking festival, and the Breeze radio station is one of the sponsors. So they have asked me to host a walk out here as part of the festival for April 2021. So that will be an opportunity for me to show people from whoever, could be all over New Zealand, coming to WaiMac, so I'll make sure I'll pick a good one for that. So I'll keep you posted on that. There'll be a lot of advertising on the radio and some pamphlets and things as they get that organised. So that's a bit exciting. Another thing I wanted to mention was, you know, don't forget to enjoy what we have got to offer here in regards to concerts. We in Rangiora, I'm discovering, have got the most fantastic concerts for $25 or $35 max. You can go and enjoy something here without going too far. I went to watch a young guy, 18 years old, Benedict Lim, his name is, play the violin at the Rangiora Chamber Gallery, which I've never stepped foot in my entire life, and I was actually surprised how beautiful it was. And the reason why is because I looked around, and it really does, in all honesty, attract the silver-haired. And so a lot of younger people, I don't really think I saw many younger people there. And what a shame that is. So as part of the board, member of the board, I've decided, you know, pass that around. You know, it's really was fantastic. You know, you've got amazing small local artists that come out to the Belkin Hall, you know, once a month or once every 2 months. It's $35, most fantastic concerts. It's just down the road. You get supper, and just, I've not enjoyed one at all. They've been fantastic. So I just thought I'd mention those two. Even the RSA, you know, there's no reason for us not to get out and support these fantastic bands that they have to suit all sorts. And lastly, just to finish, this is for you, Jim. I just wanted to acknowledge that and give condolences from myself, and I'm sure the board will follow me in saying really sorry to hear that Mary's brothers passed away on Monday. We're thinking of you, Jim, Mary, and your family at this time. So sad news, but just wanted to acknowledge that for those on the board that may not have realised that. So love to Mary from me. And
thank you, Sarah. Thank you. That's appreciated. Yeah. Andy, that tank behind you looks like it leaks, Andy.
Yeah, it's the Huranui District's water scheme. Oh, there you are. Hi, Jim. It's the Huranui District's water scheme. It's not Waimakariri's.
Right.
Nothing to report from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Paul.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Andy,
Paul?
we actually, Waimakariri do drink out of that water scheme, so we have to be very careful. Being a grey-haired person...
Paul, my water comes from that tank. That's what feeds my house.
I realise that. And Sarah, being a grey-haired person now, I'm starting to, I think I might have to go and see some of these concerts a bit more, because I'm probably fitting to that group.
You should.
Ben might have a problem in a few years when he gets to my age. He might not have nothing left there.
You've got a way to go yet, Paul.
I have. Yeah, it's for all councils. I think we've had a really, really busy time in the last month, and I think we're going to have a busier time next month. So I actually don't know where to start, but probably the most important thing is I've been to the government Three Waters scenario. Nothing's been decided yet, but they have offered the council a carrot of quite a big chunk of money to do some work around our water schemes and sewage schemes around the Waimakariri that will benefit the whole of the community eventually. So it's probably going to be a good thing if we accept it. We haven't decided whether we will or not, but I think we'll be probably seriously looking at it, because we need to be in discussions with the government over this Three Waters thing. They've promised us this money with no hooks, but I think a few of us are thinking there may be a few hooks involved, but I think we have to take this opportunity to take some money, and with a bit of luck, I think I can mention the projects, or a couple of the projects we may be looking at. One of them might be this connecting the Fernside scheme, sewage scheme, which is a very, very expensive system, and we may not be able to do it without a bit of a help for the government. And the other one might be Loban Lee with the sewage side there, and we may be able to help out the bit of the Point Road side scheme. So it's looking quite promising if it all goes to plan. But so the short term is, but I don't know what the long term will be with this government Three Waters scenario. But at the moment, they've promised there's no fish hooks in it. So if we take the money, all we have to do is sit there and consult with them. And they've promised us if we don't like the idea, we can pull out. But I think Ben is a wee bit nervous on that. We all are a bit nervous on that, but we have to take them at their word at this stage anyway. So apart from that, it's just been busy. I did go to the opening of the Garrymere scheme. It's all opening and operating. Staff have made a really good job of designing it. The price is probably less than what we were originally expecting, and I think after all the consultation, and Dan did a lot of work in the consultation there, and I think he's made it so that the ratepayers in that area are quite happy, and they've got a real good water scheme now for the going into the future. So everything's pretty positive there as well. So it's all looking good. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And Duncan would be pleased you mentioned the Garrymere water supply, because that was a great result which the previous council put in place, and the mayor, of course, opened it, and you and I were there, and Duncan was there, and that's gone down really well with the locals over there. So thank you for mentioning that. That's the end of members' exchange. Items 11 and 12 for members' information. Item 13, no media, no questions, no urgent general business. So that is the end of the meeting.